So, double dose of watches for you today. Today, I have in two watches from the brand MMI Watches. The first is the Turret version 2, which has some great improvements over the first version of the watch. The second watch is the Turret Marine Chronograph, and especially in this colorway, has a nice little touch of 70s flair. Big thanks to MMI Watches for lending these in for a few days for us to take a look at together. So let's get straight to it and check out the watches. All right, now I think we're going to start off with the Turret version 2. There are some similarities between these watches. There's some crossover, so I'll talk about it with this watch, but it'll sort of account for the chronograph as well. One of those being the bracelet. The bracelets are identical. The cases are also identical. There is a difference in the thickness of the watches. That's only due to the chronograph having a domed sapphire crystal versus the flat crystal here. We'll get to all that here soon, but let's start with the diver. So I had in the original Turret for a video a while back, and there was one area the watch needed improvement on, and it's part of what makes the watch stand out from the crowd. That is the date indicator. The version 1 Turret was quite hard to read, but right away when I first got hands-on with this watch, I could see the improvement. The indicator is larger for one, but they've also used a different paint that's brighter and also slightly reflective. I might be wrong, but from memory, I feel like the white markers for the dates are easier to read too. Not sure if they're maybe a little bolder of a font, but the date is just definitely easier to read all around. Two other areas of improvement also help with legibility. One is the applied hour markers are longer and go from the very edge of the dial right to the edge of the date indicator. Between those and the well-proportioned handset, you won't have any problem getting the time. The other area of improvement is the lume. They went from using Super Luminova grade X1C1 to the brighter Super Luminova grade X1C3. Now, this particular model has old Radium X1. I can only imagine this isn't quite as bright as the C3, but it is still very bright. The lume is very solid on this watch. It's not maybe all that useful, but even the date is loomed, and they've also loomed the logo on the crown. Definitely no shortage of lume on the watch at all. The bezel is using an ion-plated steel insert, which is harder than aluminum and more shatter-resistant than ceramic. The bezel has a thin coin edge, and it's not the easiest to grip. It's a little on the stiff side too, but it is manageable. The case has a very angular design, especially on the side profile there. It kind of reminds me of a slimmer samurai. At the lugs, there's some polish detail on the inner and outer side of each lug. The crown is a screw-down crown, and even with the crown guards, no problems getting a hold of it to unscrew and set the time. The movement, by the way, is the good old NH35 by Seiko. It's actually been a while since I've had in a watch with the NH35. It's not the most exciting movement, but it is no doubt a reliable one. The bracelet is an H-link style bracelet. It's fully brushed even on the sides. It's quick release with solid end links. The links use screw pins, and when I sized the watch, I was surprised to see just how thick they were. I'll put a shot up now of one of the links with the pin in it, and it's got to be at least 3 or 4 times thicker than your normal push pin you find in a bracelet. So overall, nice, solid bracelet. Decent clasp, and the clasp has 5 micro adjusts. Size on the watch is just under 40 millimeters in case width. I'm getting 39.8 millimeters. Lug to lug is 46.8 millimeters. Lug opening is 22 millimeters, and the thickness is 13.6 millimeters. I'll just grab the chronograph to show the difference in thickness. So although the diver has a bit of a chunkier case back versus the flatter case back of the chronograph, with the domed crystal. The chronograph is a little bit taller at 14.3 millimeters. The crystal on this watch is a flat sapphire treated with an anti-reflective coating. Both models have an anti-reflective treatment on the crystals. Water resistance on this watch is 300 meters. As far as wearability goes, it wears great. It's a good size. It's not overly large, but still has that tooly feel at the same time. Now, there's 4 color options available if you check the site, but these are going to be limited to a total of 100 pieces. Current cost is just over $290 USD if you pre-order, and will eventually go up to $400 afterwards, and delivery is expected to be late May to early June. So pretty cool watch, but let's put this one aside and check out the chronograph. So with this model, MMI had some fun with the colors. There's more traditional color options too. There's a really nice panda dial version, but there's a couple brighter ones that dish out the 70s vibes in a pretty big way. This one has a vibrant yellow dial that almost brings to mind the dial color of the Seiko Pogue. The movement running the watch is the Seiko VK67A Mecha Quartz movement. And let's get that VK67 fired up here. Now down at the 6 in the contrasting black subdial is the running seconds. In the upper subdial is the minutes counter for the chronograph. Then over at the 9 is the hours. I like that they went with the yellow subdial there. It keeps the dial more symmetrical. On the outer edge of the dial is a date indicator, similar to the last watch, but with that slightly different placement. It's not going to be as legible as, say, a regular date window, and that goes for both of these watches, but it is cool, and it is still readable too. Lume on this watch is very good. It's X1C3. The smaller hands on the subdial seem like they might not be quite as bright as the rest of the lume, but as a whole, the lume is good. It's bright, long-lasting, and they've also lumed the crown on this model too. So although they look very different side by side, most of the rest of the watch is essentially the same as the Turret V2. We have got a different rehaut, I should probably point out, with the tachymeter scale on the chronograph. One difference on the spec sheet is the water resistance. The chronograph has a water resistance of 100 meters, not to the level of the diver, but still plenty of water resist. And here is a look on my 7¼ inch wrist, and these both wear nicely. Both good-looking watches. I almost forgot, this watch has one change coming to the production models. You may have noticed. The minute track at the moment doesn't have minute markers, so they'll add longer markers at every minute on those production models. The cost for this is currently at just under $325 USD during the pre-order, then full retail will be $460 US. And these are expected to be delivered for sometime in May. These ones are limited to a total of 250 watches. That's across all 4 colors, a total of 250. Link to where you can find these will be in the description below. Thanks again to MMI for lending these in. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.